Hey folks, I'm Amit D'Souza, a Kubernetes contributor, a CNCF keynote speaker, and I'm going to be speaking about platform engineering at KubeCon China 2025. I would love to catch up with you all there. I'm also the founder of Odyssey Cloud, where we make platform engineering practical, secure, and built to last. We have enabled multiple organizations across the globe to modernize and scale their platforms. Today, we are going to be walking through how to start your platform engineering journey the right way. The main reason for this is as we go through all the different stages, what we notice is during our phase of building all the different setups, we have to sometimes go through certain hiccups, such as we do not want to build another DevOps Frankenstein. We have to define our why, because without defining your problem statement, you might build something which your end users and your clients don't want. You do not want to do this, and you want to ensure that you can definitely know why are you building this platform, how you can go about it, and how you can simplify this whole journey, not only for yourself and your platform engineers, but also for your devs. You want to always start small. You do not want to go into the analysis paralysis where you are trying to build this mammoth platform where you're not sure where to begin. You're trying to build the whole platform to be ready right from the get-go. Definitely do not want to do that. You also want to choose your right tools for your platform. You do not want to select tools which may not be appropriate to you and your organization. You want to definitely think about the tools you pick up, think about the tools you choose, test it out, and if they work very well for you and your organization, definitely go ahead. Last and finally, you always want to make your platform self-service. You do not want to have to be following a ticket practice or a ticket approach. You could potentially use tickets in an automated fashion where someone raises a ticket and automatically the respective services complete. That is one option. But you definitely, and the only reason for doing that would be for an audit trail, such as security requests, etc. And lastly and finally, you want to make it easy to contribute to. Now, why is this the case? You do not want to be a platform engineering team to be the bottleneck of your entire platform. You want it to be simplified. You want your developers to be able to contribute to this, to create their own little self-service modules where they can go ahead and contribute to this and enable you to create your platform. You always want to create feedback loops. This is very, very important, as without feedback loops, you do not know whether you're building the right thing. There are bugs in your platform. You want to ensure that it's widely used. In order for it to get widely used, you need to ensure there's a feedback loop. And lastly and finally, we'll walk through the common pitfalls. So in today's session, first thing that we're going to walk through is don't build another DevOps Frankenstein. Now, most teams and most companies, when they start with their platform engineering journey, they don't generally end up building a platform as a product. They generally end up stumbling into it and realizing, hey, I can build this automation piece here and this automation piece there. And when they gradually build it all together, it's not a very smooth interface where people can use it. And potentially, if you'll have multiple DevOps teams within your company and potentially silos, you might end up with duplication of your platform. You might end up with everyone following their own interface, which could end up being a little bit problematic. You definitely want to ensure that you are intentionally creating this product, intentionally creating this platform, and not stumbling across it while creating different mediums of your interface for users or developers to interact with. You do not want your tools to be undocumented. So one of the biggest failures and the reason for failures for the platform is people do not think about their tools and do not document properly. And without the documentation or without API documentation, If your tool is going to be accessible via API, people might not use your platform. People might not use your self-service automations that you have put into place. You want to make sure that all the self-service automations you put into place are very well documented. Your team who are going to be using them have been onboarded. You run a couple of different workshops with them, and you potentially sit with them for the first couple of sessions where they are setting up this, where they are utilizing these automations, so that and you want to show them how simple it is, how easy to use it is. So this can happen with multiple reasons, because some teams might use Jenkins, another team might use GitLab, and it's okay to use different mediums to automate certain things, but you want that process and that automation to be very intentional. The next, we are going to talk about your why. So you have to remember, when you are developing all these automations, why are you developing these automations? Why are you building a platform? Why is, say, an automation of a static site or creation of project automatic? Why is that specific one being built first? You have to ensure that you're building it only when your developers need it, is your developers are not being blocked by it. You want to make sure that your infrastructure is not brittle. You want to make sure that those are the reasons that you're helping in building this platform. So maybe some of the developers don't want to build dashboards for every single application they have, or they do not want to every single time have to go through the headache of creating a ticket to create a new project within your respective cloud provider. So that is why you want to ensure that you're building your platform. You want to ensure that you very well define it, why you're going through this whole process, why you're building specific automations before certain other ones, how you're going to help your respective developers contribute to this. So you want to define all your organization's pain points, and that's going to in turn help in setting up your platform and ensuring that it's not just adding all the tools that are available to us, but rather than that, its main goal is to remove friction and to make it simple to use. So the next one post that is you actually building out your self-service platform. So when you're building out your self-service platform, you have to think about what are your high impact use cases. You want to ensure that you're trying to standardize certain CI tools. You want to standardize certain CD tools. You want to standardize the way certain infrastructure is provisioned. And potentially you could use various mediums for all of this. So you could ensure that you have APIs available for your developers to use. You have the option of CLI to use. So giving your developers all these different options while at the same time standardizing it makes it very simple for your developers to use this platform. The higher and the more the platform is used, the higher the chances your platform is going to succeed. Your main goal of creating this platform is always ensuring that you're reducing friction of your setup. So you want to build value early, and you want to iterate through all the different steps that you have. You also have to think about your minimum viable product that you build, and you want to ensure that all of it is very centralized in terms of how you're accessing it, that you have specific golden paths, you have very well defined your self-service workflows. Doing all this in this particular fashion will really, really help you build your platform to succeed in the long run. The next is deciding what are your right DevOps tools for your tool chain. So you not only want to ensure that you're picking up tools, but you want to make sure that yes, by picking up tools, you're not built a platform. You're building a platform is a lot more than just picking up all random tools, right? You want to ensure that you have very well thought about, again, going back to what's your why. As Simon Sinek says it, right? Once you know what's your why, you can very easily go and pick and choose what tool might be right for you. And in future, if that tool you find is not the appropriate tool for your platform, you could very well replace those tools. So whether it is GitLab, GitHub for CI, or it is Argo workflows. For CD, it could be something like Octopus deploy, or if it's GitOps, it could be ArgoCD and Flux. So, and for infrastructure as code, you could be using Crossplane or OpenTofu. So you have a lot of options as far as what type of tools you're going to use for your infrastructure and for your entire tool chain. Um, that is why it's important to realize using the tools is not important, and just adding tools to that is not important, but your why is going to be important, and your end goal should be building a very robust platform which is as frictionless as possible. The next part that we are going to talk about is the self-service experience for your developers. So finally, why are we building the whole platform, right? You want to ensure that your developers are not blocked or are don't find the bottleneck of their development to be the DevOps team or the platform team. You want it to be easy for them to be able to, self-serve and proceed with whatever their daily tasks are. So if they are performing a POC, for example, they need a new cloud project, and you have to set up a new cloud project. You have to set up the network for your respective project, which would be your VPC, subnets, etc. It should be very simple for them to be able to set that up. Maybe it's something as simple as calling an API, using a specific CLI to ensure that that whole setup gets set up, using a portal if necessary, a portal like Backstage where they fill in a form and their whole setup and their whole project and network gets set up, or even using Crossplane where you can either do it via YAML or via API, whichever you prefer. So when you do that and you make the developer experience a self-service experience, it's going to help in reducing the friction of your platform. Your developers are actually going to, there's a high possibility that they will start using a platform. It will basically gain more momentum, and it will make it easier to be accessible. Now, in my case, we tried to use Crossplane in order to do some of this, and this helped as we could not only build it via YAML, so the developers could either choose to use a 7-line YAML file where when they write that YAML into their respective repository, application repository, GitOps would automatically pick those respective infrastructure changes and deploy them within the next 1 to 2 minutes using Git pull. So this, they also had the option, instead, if they do not want to use YAML and they do not want to use GitOps, they could use API in order to talk to the XRDs of Crossplane and generate these respective uh, different infrastructure that they wanted. So you have to remember that you are trying to give them an option of not only self-service, but self-serving in multiple ways and mediums. So whether it's CLI, whether it's API, they have a couple of different options. You want to try and eliminate the ticket-based workflows where they'll raise a ticket and they are dependent on the DevOps or platform team in order to proceed. The only places where I feel there is a use case for that type of workflow is potentially security, where in case there is a specific permission that they require, which needs to be approved in a proper approval cycle. So in that case, maybe you have a ticket workflow, but other than that, it should be self-service where they do not need to come to the DevOps platform team. The whole process should be automated, and not just automated, but you should also have automated compliance built around that. So if there is a budget which is required, if there are specific security rules that are required, that all should be inbuilt into the system without waiting for the DevOps team. The next bit is finally talking about the whole platform enhancement cycle. So how do you ensure that you have your entire enhancement cycle? You want to make sure there is a proper feedback loop for your entire platform engineering cycle. and you want to perform it in a specific way and manner. So you basically gather feedback every time you build a new feature for your platform or a new automation for your platform. You want that to be going through this entire cycle where once you implement changes, you want to measure the usage and the usability of your platform. How often is it used? Are people using it halfway and then discarding it and not going ahead with it? Or does it have a lot of friction, which is why not many developers are using it, even though you know that there are tickets being raised or potentially other ways that developers are asking for, say, new projects or new networks, etc. You analyze all this data and treat your entire development cycle like you would for any product that you would release to end users and end customers. And based on that, you keep iterating. After you decide and you review all this data, this usage data, you will then go through, you will analyze your entire data. And based on that, you will try and gather further feedback from the developers. Once you gather this feedback, maybe some of your automations are not as easy to use, which is why they are not being used. So if you do find such use cases, you want to definitely address them and fix them way at the beginning. Because if the developers find that there is certain pieces which are too complicated, they might skip right past it and try and find other ways and not use your platform. You definitely want to avoid that. And lastly and finally, we're going to talk about the common pitfalls to avoid. So you want to avoid over engineering a platform. You want to ensure that it is simple to use, it does not create a lot of friction to use, and this does not create unnecessary complexity. You definitely also do not want to waste any resources while you're setting up your platform and the automations are working. You want to work post that is tool buying. You want to ensure that your developers are adopting it very well and it's very smooth for them to adopt and use it. Finally, you want to ensure that this whole system is fostering collaboration and it encourages knowledge sharing. So you want to make sure that all your respective automations and your entire platform that you're building, you are always putting in documentation around it. You might have certain APIs which respond with what does your respective APIs do, or potentially, similar to how Swagger is there, which explains the details of each of the APIs. Or even if you're doing the CLI, your CLI command should be very descriptive, where if some of your developers try and execute the command, it tells them and they have put in the wrong attributes or no attributes, it should give them a description of the command of how they can use those respective CLI commands. And finally, as you can see, the last part is implement documentation. Without making onboarding process of your platform smooth and ensuring that there is a proper knowledge transfer and your developers learning to use your platform without too much of friction, it's going to make it very hard for you to build your respective platform. So you want to ensure that you definitely, when you're going through your whole process, you do not over engineer. You ensure that the tools which you're trying to use have sufficient buy-in from your developers and you're not building in silos. Always take feedback for whatever you've built for your system. So this basically covers most of your pitfalls of when you're building a platform. And you always want to make sure that you start small, you focus on developer experience, and you treat your platform as a product. If you would like a free assessment of your platform initiative, please feel free to reach out to us at info@odysseycloud.io. Thank you for tuning in. I hope this gave you a clearer picture of how to adopt platform engineering and how to go on your platform engineering journey. We are going to continue with the series explaining why it matters, how to go about implementing it across different tools. And if you're looking to simplify your developer experience, scale your infrastructure, or need a platform for your journey, feel free to reach out to Odyssey Cloud and let us build something that works for you and your teams, not against them. I would love to hear your thoughts about what tools you all are using and what challenges you all are facing. Drop a comment below and let's get this conversation going. Thank you.